Why not make a video about the two things that my kids would say are the most boring topics in the world? That is golf and whatever it is I do for work all day, which is solution and enterprise architecture. And the reason I'm sharing this is I think there's a lot of really I know there's a lot of really dry architecture content out there, and I know this because I consume a lot of it. So what I thought I would do is share how I'm approaching getting better at golf using architecture and using that as an example that hopefully a lot of people can follow along with and make that analogy to business. I'm really big on analogies. And I don't want to have a philosophical or academic argument or conversation about what architecture is. I'll give you a really quick definition for me. It's the elements that make up a system and how those elements relate to each other. So in this case, we're looking at the elements that make up my golf game, which is almost non-existent, and how those things relate to each other and where I can improve and what's working and what's not. The same thing works with business, right? We're not going to touch business. I'll here and there I will kind of draw those lines over so you can see them more easily, but you can probably do that on your own. So a little background here on why I'm doing this. If my golf game were an organization, I would say it's break even right now. I don't have a good golf game. I've never had a good golf game, and I haven't played golf in 25 years. I used to play when I was younger, 25, 30 years ago. And even back then, I wasn't good. I was a bogey golfer. I attribute even being a bogey golfer to the fact that I was a reasonably good athlete and I had a lot of opportunity to practice. I didn't make the best use of that opportunity, but I had opportunity to practice just because I had time. Now I'm not as good of an athlete as I was back then, and I don't have the time that I had back then. So I'm trying to take a smarter approach, and yeah, I just realized this might help some other people too. So I'm going to jump right into it. What I'm showing here is the ArchiMate language structure. Blah, 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 right? You don't need to know much about ArchiMate other than it's a system that people way smarter than me came up with to help architects or even business people, anybody really, model out the elements that make up a business or organization and how those elements relate to each other. So it goes back again to that definition of architecture that I gave earlier. And you can see here it's set up in layers, and they kind of make sense for business. Your strategy layer is where your decisions are made, your big decisions, where your direction is made. Do we want to launch a new product? Do we want to move into this market? Things like that. Business is more about the operations, the processes involved, the people involved, the services that we provide to our customers. Application is just what that's pretty easy, right? It's the things that make that business happen. The technology supports those applications. It's the stuff that they sit on. And I'm not going to touch really the implementation and migration area right here. Uh, and covering it all is motivation. So what I'm going to show and what I'm going to do in these videos is just one approach. There's not really a right way. One thing I really like about ArchiMate and uh, in general architectures, I don't have to use all of the things that are available to me. I can make some decisions. I'm going to make some decisions. The one thing I would encourage you to do if you decide to do this for yourself is be consistent. When you make a decision, do it like that every time. Model like that every time, because as I'm betting what's going to happen as we go through these videos is we're going to change the way we're going to see some things that make us rethink how we're modeling. And if we've done it the same way every time, it'll be easy to consistently make the changes, help us go forward. So the last thing I want to say about this diagram is, in my experience, where I've seen some architecture initiatives fail, a lot of them is they kick off with a real focus on strategy, and I understand why. What we're ultimately trying to do as architects is provide decision makers with enough information to make a really good data-driven decision. And we do that by giving them a visual uh, map of the organization or data or hopefully both. But the reality of the situation is a lot of architecture groups or organizations sit within IT. Um, and it's interesting as an IT organization, you may not have a lot of access to the strategy layer or the people that are involved in the strategy layer. You probably have some limited access to the business, maybe a lot, hopefully. That'd be great. But you have a lot of access right here in application and technology. I really like starting in the middle and working out. I like that model. And it lends itself really well to what we're going to do with golf because if you think about it, uh, you're not, or I'm not going to sit down for a month and not hit a golf ball, right? I'm not going to sit down for a month and think about what is motivating me to uh, to play golf and what I hope to get out of it and what my goals are and what my practice schedule is going to be and how I'm going to address the ball. I'm not thinking about that. I'm operating a golf game right now, just like you're probably operating a business right now. At some point, I'm going to have to deal with what's actually here. I'm not going to make a bunch of decisions here and then just come in and greenfield all of my application and technology layer. That's not how it works. Like we've got to deal with the reality of the situation and then adjust, and maybe we get up to that strategy layer later. It's not that we're not thinking about it. I'm thinking about my strategy for improving at golf. I'm thinking about my how I need to practice. I'm thinking about that stuff already, but that's not where I'm going to start with my model. And if you think about it, even for somebody who's just starting out, unless they're a kid with a parent who's into the sport already, how did most of us get started, or how did I get started? Right? Somebody gave me some clubs, and we went to a driving range, and this guy wasn't a coach. Uh, he helped me try to whack at the ball, or maybe somebody goes to Costco and buys some clubs, and they stop on the way home at a driving range, and they get a bucket of balls, and they just start swinging. Right at that point, you have a golf game. It's just not a very good one. And I would say, maybe at that point you have a business. If we're going to draw that comparison, it's just not a very good one. So what we're going to do right now is like we're just going to go ahead and get started with modeling. I'm using a tool called Archi. It's free. I'll put a link in the description. Um, you don't need to know a lot about this tool either. It's actually pretty simple and intuitive. One thing I want to point out is I started a new model. I called it Scott's Golf, and it gives me these layers. You see how they match up: strategy, business, application. It gives you those. You might be able to change those in this software. I don't even know how. Uh, Actually, I don't even care because we're starting in the middle here. Application is actually a great description of what we're going to be modeling right now. We're going to be modeling the things that we apply to golf. So application is actually a pretty good word. So I'm just going to go ahead and hide this ArchiMate window here, and we're going to look at that middle layer, the applications, right? And you see I've already got two subfolders here, but we're going to focus on clubs. Okay, so these are the clubs that I own, right? These are, if you want to think of it as applications, these are the clubs that are in my environment or that are available to me. So if we think of this, a great way to start modeling is just get a list of your applications. If you have an application catalog, that's great. You've got a really good start. But if you don't have an application catalog, your application catalog is going to start with literally probably column A on a spreadsheet where you're just listing out what you have, which is exactly what we've done right here. Okay, so what I want to do now is set up a bag. Now, as a solution architect, what I would probably do is set up a bag for a specific course. But generalities here, right? We're going to set up a bag. So I'm going to go down to views, and a view is just a way to look at my architecture. You'll see as we go through these videos, we're going to have a lot more than golf clubs in in this architecture. But first, I'm just going to look at my bag. Okay, so what do we got here? We've got my irons, we've got my woods, we've got some wedges, and we have a putter. So interesting way to think about this, right? I can take 14 clubs with me if I'm playing by the rules. I love the rules. If I'm playing by the rules, I'm going to take 14 clubs with me out on the course, or up to 14. That's my budget. So I've budgeted 14 clubs. It just so happens for this example, I have exactly 14 clubs in my environment right now, and I've got 14 clubs in this bag. But just because I have these clubs in my bag doesn't mean that these are the clubs I should have in my bag, right? I can tell you right off the top, I should not put this club in my bag at all, ever, at least not right now. I would like to say that I don't ever hit that club. Uh, More accurate would be to say I shouldn't hit that club. So this is something that gets me in trouble. What if I take that out of my bag? Right? I probably just got better at golf by not even carrying that club or that application with me. It's probably, and this is intuitive, right? We haven't gotten to the data and everything behind this, but intuitively, I know that that's gonna help my game, and probably I don't have to take this. I don't ever hit this club. I can take that out of my bag. Okay, so what does that mean? Um, and again, super simple example here. But what one way to look at this is I have a 14 club budget and I'm only have a 12 club spend. Now I can start thinking about, and this is I'm doing application rationalization, right? I can start thinking about what can I replace those two slots with in my bag that will actually help me. So one of the things that's changed a lot since when I played golf previously, there's a lot of new technology that's come across in the last 20 years or so. There's this club that I've never owned before, and it's called a rescue or a hybrid, right? What if I were to add that to my environment, and now I have that available to put into my bag? All right, that's pretty cool because what I've done is I've eliminated a problem club. I've replaced it with a club that solves problems, right? I'm in the rough a lot. This is a great club for that. It's super forgiving. So, in a situation where I might hit a 3-wood or I might hit a 3-iron, I can hit these clubs. But consistently, can I hit them well? Probably better off here, right? Even if it costs me a little bit of potential distance. If it's a forgiving club that I know I'm going to have a good second shot with when I need it, that's a great club to put in my bag. So what I've done here is I've rationalized my bag to reflect my game. I can't put in my bag what Scotty Scheffler puts in his bag. I mean, I can put it in there, but I don't have his game. He's playing a completely different game than me. And if you think about your business, Amazon is playing a different game than you are, or GE, they're playing a different game than you are probably, right? You have to think about what you have to model out and think about what your game is and how your game can be improved and what are the easiest ways or missing pieces. Like, we were missing that rescue club. That's a missing piece that can greatly improve my game. Again, intuitively right now, but as we build out structure, we'll actually be able to see why it improves. We can represent that to other people to convince them to make that same decision. My golf game is just me. If I had to convince 5 other, 100 other people that that's the right way to go, uh, a graphical way with some data behind it to show it would be great. And that's what we're doing when we start modeling out our architecture. All right, so that's an example of the kind of thinking that we use architecture. And I know you can do this part you can do in your head. Just you got to stick with it. As we build out, it's gonna start turning on some light bulbs. As they turn on for me, hopefully they'll turn on for you. One of the other things I wanted to point out here with my applications, I did put another folder in here for accessories. If you're thinking about the things that go in your bag, obviously we have our clubs in our bag. What else goes in our bag? Uh, what I've listed here, we've got a ball marker, a towel, and an umbrella. Uh, this is more of like a cautionary thing here. These are great. It's there's nothing wrong with listing out everything that is going to go in your bag. Where I would caution you is spending a lot of time modeling out everything that goes into the bag of your business, right? Because knowing that it's there, modeling that it's there, isn't necessarily going to give you any ROI. It's not going to help you improve any. I could go in here. Oh, what's missing on my accessories list, right? I'm going to add. I'm going to add some accessory. I'm going to add some tees. And what else could I add here? I'm going to add. Let's say I'm going to add a repair tool. Okay, that's great. Those are things they're gonna be in my bag. But if they're not, if I don't have my repair tool, I can get by. I can fix it with a tee. If I didn't list tees, I'm probably gonna have tees, or I can find one laying around the golf course. Um, if I don't have a ball marker, I can use a coin. I can use a tee. It's not that it's not true to model these things out. It's that it doesn't really get me anywhere to model these things out. Other than if you just want to do this for practice, I would definitely recommend that. Uh, but you might find out as we get further into this that you can put all kinds of things on here that just don't really affect anything, right? I can have three kinds of towels. Does that affect anything? Probably not. So by the time I get to the next video, I probably will have filled out that accessories folder a little bit more. But I just want to point out that it's not necessary in every case, and it's not important in every case, and it probably won't get us anywhere. So I hope this is helpful, and I hope that it wasn't too long. And if nothing else, maybe one day my kids will watch it and kind of appreciate a little bit more about what I do.